The massive crystal dome of Nexus Station hummed with desperate energy as representatives from 12 different worlds gathered in emergency session. Admiral Taman stood quietly near the back wall, his dark uniform a stark contrast to the colorful array of alien beings filling the chamber. His hands remained clasped behind his back as he watched the chaos unfold before him. At the center of the room, Chancellor Veltar of the Vorthon Empire activated the holographic display with one of his 4 trembling hands. The image that appeared made every creature in the room fall silent. It showed empty space where 17 star systems had once existed. Not debris, not scattered remains, nothing. "The Kepler sector is gone," the Chancellor announced, his voice heavy with grief. 43 billion souls, 17 inhabited worlds, 3 ancient civilizations, all consumed by the Devourers in less than 48 hours. A collective shudder passed through the assembled delegates. The Zephyrians, with their translucent blue skin, began emitting low harmonic tones of mourning. The insect-like Chitauri clicked their mandibles nervously while their compound eyes reflected the horrific images. Even the ethereals, beings of pure energy contained within their environmental suits, flickered with what could only be described as fear. Admiral Taman stepped forward slightly, his boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. "How fast are they moving?" he asked quietly. The room turned to look at him. Many of the aliens had forgotten the human representative was even there. Earth was still considered a primitive world by galactic standards, barely worthy of a seat. At the council table, their chemical rockets and nuclear weapons seemed laughably outdated compared to the antimatter cannons and reality-warping technologies possessed by the older civilizations. Current velocity indicates they will reach the outer colonies in approximately 6 standard months, replied Dr. Zixera, the Altarian military strategist. Her scaled green skin shifted color as she spoke, betraying her emotional state. "Admiral, with respect, your species lacks the experience to understand what we face. The Devourers are not merely another hostile alien race." Taman nodded politely. "Please explain." The insectoid Queen Hera of the Chitauri Collective spoke through her mechanical translator. "They are older than recorded history. Biomechanical. Entities that consume matter itself and convert it into more of their kind. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They simply devour everything in their path. Every civilization that has encountered them has been completely destroyed," added the ethereal representative, its voice emanating from speakers on its containment suit. "The ancient builders, who could manipulate gravity itself, lasted only 3 days against them. The machine lords of Sector 9, with their self-replicating battle fleets, were gone in a week." Taman studied the tactical displays showing the Devourer's approach vector. The entities moved in a loose formation spanning several light years, each one roughly the size of a small moon. Their surfaces writhed with organic and mechanical components, constantly shifting and adapting. Long-range sensors showed them literally eating asteroids, space stations, and anything else they encountered. "What defensive measures are being considered?" he asked. The question brought uncomfortable silence. Finally, Chancellor Veltar spoke. "There are no defensive measures, Admiral. History has shown that resistance only delays the inevitable. We are preparing for large-scale evacuation." "Evacuation to where?" "The galactic core. If we move quickly, we can relocate the civilian populations to the inner systems. The Devourers have never penetrated that far before abandoning a galaxy." "Abandoning a galaxy," Taman repeated. Dr. Zixera's scales shifted to a darker shade. "They consume the outer and middle regions, then move on to the next galaxy. We estimate they have done this to hundreds of star clusters over the past 1,000,000 years." The human admiral walked closer to the holographic display, studying the data with quiet intensity. The other delegates watched him with a mixture of pity and curiosity. Some whispered among themselves about the touching naivety of this young species, still believing they could make a difference against cosmic forces beyond comprehension. "How many ships do we have available for evacuation?" Taman asked. "Every civilian transport, cargo hauler, and passenger vessel in the galaxy," replied the Vorthon Chancellor. "Even with perfect coordination, we can only save perhaps 60% of the population. The weight of that statement hung in the air. Billions would be left behind to face the devourers alone. Entire worlds would be sacrificed to save what they could. The Chitauri began their clicking morning ritual, while the Zephyrian's harmonic tones grew more mournful. Tay-Min studied the approach vectors one more time, his expression unreadable. When do we reconvene to finalize these evacuation plans? Hours, the Chancellor replied. We need time to coordinate with all member worlds and calculate transport capacity. As the session ended, delegates began forming small groups. Discussing the logistics of the largest evacuation in galactic history, Iltarians worked with the Ethereals on refugee processing. The Chitauri consulted with the Vorthon about military escorts for the transport fleets. Everyone moved with the urgent efficiency of beings facing extinction. Admiral Taman remained behind, alone in the vast chamber. He stood before the holographic display, watching the slow but inevitable approach of the devourer swarm. His fingers traced the air as he calculated distances, speeds, and timing. Then he activated his personal communicator. This is Admiral Taman to Earth Command, he said quietly. We need to talk. Captain Sujin stepped off the transport shuttle onto the docking bay of Nexus Station, her black boots echoing against the metal floor. 3 other human officers followed behind her, each carrying sealed data cases and wearing the same calm expression that had puzzled alien observers for weeks. While every other species in the galaxy had spent the past 72 hours in frantic evacuation planning, the humans had been notably absent from all emergency meetings. The station buzzed with desperate activity. Orthan logistics officers rushed past carrying evacuation charts. Chitauri technicians worked frantically on communication arrays to coordinate the massive refugee movement. Ethereal beings flickered between their containment suits as they processed endless streams of data about transport capacity and safe zones. Captain Sujin walked through this chaos with unhurried steps, her dark eyes taking in every detail. Her companion, Lieutenant Biora, checked the time display on her wrist device. We are exactly on schedule, she said quietly. Good, Sujin replied. Punctuality matters when making impossible requests. The council chamber had been reconfigured for emergency operations. Holographic displays showed real-time updates from across the galaxy as civilian populations prepared for the largest migration. In recorded history, 12 species representatives looked exhausted. Their earlier panic now replaced with grim determination to save who they could. Chancellor Veltar noticed the human delegation entering and gestured with one of his 4 hands. Captain Sujin, we were beginning to worry. Earth has not responded to any evacuation coordination requests. Do you require transport allocations for your colonies? No evacuation will be necessary, Sujin replied, her voice carrying clearly. Across the chamber, we have a different request. The room fell silent. Even the constant chatter of translation devices stopped as every being focused on the human captain. She walked to the center of the chamber, standing beside the holographic display showing the approaching devourer swarm. We need detailed intelligence on devourer capabilities, she announced. Every engagement record, every tactical analysis, every piece of data you possess about how they operate. Dr. Zixera of the Altarian forces stared at her in disbelief. Captain, are you suggesting your species intends to fight them? Something like that, Stujin answered calmly. The Chitauri Queen's mechanical translator crackled with what sounded like laughter. With what weapons? Your chemical rockets that barely reach your own moon? Your nuclear bombs that could not scratch a devourer's outer shell? We have our methods, said Lieutenant Commander Jin Wu, one of the officers accompanying Sujin. His tone remained respectful but firm. The ethereal representative flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Captain, perhaps your species does not fully understand the scale of this threat. The devourers have withstood antimatter bombardments capable of destroying small planets. They have absorbed gravitational weapons that can bend space itself. They convert any matter they encounter into more of their kind. Sujin nodded thoughtfully. Impressive. That information will be very useful for our preparations. Preparations for what? Demanded Chancellor Veltar. Captain, I mean no disrespect, but your civilization has been part of the galactic community for less than 50 years. You lack the technology, the experience, the sheer firepower necessary to even slow down the Devourers. Perhaps Sujin agreed, but we would like to try. However, we need one additional thing from the council. The room waited expectantly. Some delegates leaned forward, curious despite their disbelief. Others simply stared at what they assumed was either remarkable courage or complete madness from this young species. We request that all galactic military fleets withdraw to a minimum distance of 50 light-years from the projected Devourer. Approach vectors, Sujin announced. The silence that followed was deafening. Then the chamber erupted in concern. Voices speaking in dozens of different languages. Translation devices worked overtime as delegates expressed their shock and confusion. "You want us to abandon our defensive positions?" asked the Vorthan Chancellor, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "You want us to leave you completely alone with the most dangerous force in the known universe?" added Dr. Zixera. "We are requesting room to work," Sujin replied calmly, waiting for the noise to die down. "Your fleets would only complicate our operations." Queen Hera of the Chitauri leaned forward, her compound eyes reflecting the chamber lights. "Captain, this is either the bravest thing any species has ever attempted or the most suicidal. Your entire civilization will be destroyed." "Maybe," Sujin acknowledged. "But consider the alternative. Your evacuation plans will save perhaps 60% of the galactic population. The rest will die anyway. What do you lose by letting us try first?" The logic was brutal but undeniable. The ethereal representative spoke first. "If your species wishes to sacrifice itself for a few extra days of preparation time for the rest of us, we cannot stop you." "It is not sacrifice," said Lieutenant Minsuk, speaking for the first time. "It is strategy." "What strategy?" pressed Chancellor Veltar. "What could you possibly know about fighting the Devourers that civilizations thousands of years older have missed?" Sujin smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a pleasant expression. Sometimes the newest perspective sees what others have overlooked. "Will you share the intelligence data?" The council members looked at each other. Uncertainly, finally, Dr. Zixera spoke. "If you are determined to throw your lives away, at least you deserve to know what you face. We will provide everything." "Excellent," Sujin replied. "And the fleet withdrawal?" "Granted," the Chancellor said heavily. "May whatever gods your species worships have mercy on your souls." As the human delegation prepared to leave, Captain Sujin turned back one final time. "Do not mourn for us yet, honored delegates. Wait and see what happens first." 3 weeks passed like a countdown to disaster. Across the galaxy, alien fleets retreated to safe distances, while massive evacuation ships continued their desperate work. Meanwhile, human vessels began appearing throughout the outer systems, and their appearance baffled every military expert who observed them. The ships looked like nothing more than oversized cargo containers with enormous engines strapped to their backs. They had no visible weapons, minimal armor plating, and defensive shields so weak they might as well have been decorative. Each vessel was roughly the size of a city block, but moved with surprising speed and precision through space. Admiral Taman stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Resolve, watching the deployment through the main viewport. His ship was different from the others, sleeker and more traditionally military in appearance, but it too lacked the massive weapons arrays that other species considered essential for space combat. "Final positioning report, sir," announced Lieutenant Commander Hyun Woo from his station. The young officer's fingers moved rapidly across his control panel as data streams flowed in from across the system. "All relay stations are in position and functioning within normal parameters." "Relay stations?" Taman repeated, though he knew the answer. The term had become their code word for the unusual cargo vessels now scattered throughout a dozen star systems like seeds planted in cosmic soil. "Yes, sir." "Engineering reports all networks are synchronized and awaiting activation." From across the bridge, Commander Minho called out from the engineering station. "Admiral, I have the Galactic Council observation post requesting clarification on our deployments. They seem concerned about our tactical arrangements." Taman almost smiled. Could imagine the confusion among the alien military observers. To their eyes, Humanity had just scattered hundreds of defenseless cargo ships across the very systems the Devourers would consume first. It looked less like a military strategy and more like cosmic suicide. Tell them we appreciate their concern. And we'll provide a full briefing after contact, Taman replied. How long until the Devourers reach the outer perimeter? 18 hours, sir, Hyanwu answered. Long-range sensors show the swarm maintaining current velocity and formation. Through the communication system, Captain Sujin's voice crackled. From her position 3 systems away, her ship, the Eternal Vigilance, anchored the furthest point of the human deployment. Admiral, we have visual confirmation on the lead Devourer scouts. They are as large as the intelligence reports suggested. Taman activated the shared tactical display. The image that appeared would have terrified most beings in the galaxy. Dark shapes moved against the starfield, each one the size of a small moon. Their surfaces writhed with a disgusting mixture of organic tissue and mechanical components. Tentacles the length of skyscrapers reached out from their bodies, tasting the void for matter to consume. How many in the advanced group, Taman asked. 12 primary entities, Sujin reported, each one surrounded by smaller drone units. The main swarm is approximately 6 hours behind them. Lieutenant Commander Hyanwu studied his sensor readings. Sir, the lead scouts are already beginning to consume debris from the outer asteroid belt. Mass appears to be increasing. This was exactly what the intelligence reports had warned about. The Devourers did not simply destroy matter, they absorbed it and converted it into more of themselves. Every asteroid, every piece of space dust, every molecule they encountered made them larger and stronger. By the time they reached inhabited worlds, they would be unstoppable juggernauts. Is any change in their approach vector? Taman asked. No, sir. They are heading directly for our first relay station. Commander Minho looked up from his engineering panel. All systems show green. Across the network, the quantum entanglement links are stable, and the processing cores are running at optimal efficiency. Processing cores? Taman mused, another code phrase that would mean nothing to alien observers. The cargo vessels scattered throughout the systems were not actually carrying cargo at all. Instead, they contained the most advanced computer systems humanity had ever built, linked together through quantum communication networks that operated faster than light itself. On the main display, the Devourer scouts continued their approach. Occasionally, one would pause to consume a particularly large asteroid or piece of space debris. When they did, their bodies would pulse with bioluminescent patterns, apparently communicating with the main swarm behind them. Interesting, Lieutenant Biora commented from her position at the science station. The communication patterns are more complex than the report suggested. They are not just sharing information about food sources. What else? Taman asked. They appear to be sharing sensory data, tactical assessments, even what might be emotional states. The network connection between individual Devourers is far more sophisticated than anyone realized. This was exactly what the human teams had hoped to discover for months. Earth's best scientists and engineers had studied every piece of intelligence the galactic community possessed about the Devourers. While other species focused on their physical capabilities and destructive power, humans had become fascinated by something else entirely, their method of coordination. Time to first contact? Taman asked. 2 hours, 17 minutes, Hyanwu replied, across the communication network. Reports came in from human ships throughout the deployment zone. Every vessel was in position. Every system was functioning perfectly. The trap was set, though no observer would recognize it as such. Admiral Taman took a deep breath and activated the fleet-wide communication system. All stations, this is Admiral Taman. We are about to attempt something that has never been tried before. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and prepare to show the galaxy what humans do best. He paused, looking out at the approaching darkness that had consumed countless civilizations. We solve problems. Oh! The observation post at the edge of the system hummed with tense activity as representatives from 12 different species watched the impossible unfold on their screens. Dr. Zixera of the Altarian forces leaned forward in her chair, her scaled skin shifting through colors of confusion and disbelief. Beside her, Chancellor Veltar of the Vorthan Empire stared at the tactical displays with all four of his eyes wide open. "This cannot be correct," whispered the ethereal representative, its energy form flickering rapidly inside its containment. "Suit. Run the sensor sweep again." The Chitauri technician operating the long-range scanners clicked its mandibles nervously. "Sensors confirmed. The readings are accurate. The Devourer scouts are... malfunctioning." On the main display, the impossible scene continued to play out. The first wave of Devourer scouts, each one a biomechanical horror the size of a small moon, encountered the human vessels exactly as predicted. Everyone expected to witness the swift destruction of humanity's pathetic cargo ships, followed by the scouts growing larger and stronger from consuming the wreckage. Instead, something unprecedented was happening. The Devourers were acting strangely. 3 of the 12 scout entities had stopped moving entirely, floating dead in space. 2 others were spinning in random circles, their tentacles flailing wildly as if they had lost all sense of direction. Most disturbing of all, the remaining scouts had begun attacking each other, tearing at their fellow Devourers with the same hunger they normally reserved for planets. "Are we seeing some kind of territorial dispute?" asked Queen Hera of the Chitauri Collective, her compound eyes reflecting the strange lights coming from the battle zone. "Impossible," Dr. Zixera replied, her voice shaking. "The Devourers have never shown internal conflict. They operate as a perfect collective consciousness. This behavior goes against everything we know about them." Chancellor Veltar activated his personal communication device with trembling hands. "Get me a direct line to the human flagship. I need to speak with Admiral Taman immediately." The connection crackled to life, and the human admiral's calm face appeared on the screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Iron Resolve showed no signs of panic or celebration. The human crew worked quietly at their stations, as if nothing unusual was happening. "Admiral," the Chancellor began, "what are you doing to them?" Taman looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Doing to whom, Chancellor?" "To Devourers. They are attacking each other. They have stopped their advance. Some of them appear to be completely dead in space," Taman replied with a slight nod. "The demonstration is proceeding as planned. Would you like an explanation of our methods?" Word demonstration sent a chill through every being in the observation post. The humans had just referred to the first successful resistance against the Devourers in recorded history as a mere demonstration. "Yes," Dr. Zixera managed to say. "We would very much like an explanation." Admiral Taman turned to someone off-screen. "Captain Sujin, please join us for the briefing." Captain Sujin stepped into view, her uniform slightly wrinkled, but her expression as calm as her admiral's. Behind them both, Lieutenant Commander Hyanwu could be seen monitoring what appeared to be massive data streams flowing across multiple screens. "Honored delegates," Taman began, "we wanted to explain our approach before proceeding to the main engagement phase. As you can see, we have successfully disrupted the Devourer scout formation." "How?" demanded the ethereal representative. "They have withstood antimatter bombardments. They have absorbed weapons that can crack planets." "What are you using against them?" Captain Sujin stepped forward. "We are using something they have never encountered before. Ideas." The silence that followed was complete. Every alien in the observation post stared at the human officers as if they had just claimed to be using magic. "Ideas?" Quinhara repeated slowly. "Every species that has faced the Devourers tried to fight them with bigger weapons. Stronger shields, faster ships," Sujin explained. "You focused on their physical capabilities and tried to match or exceed them. But you missed something important." "Which is?" Chancellor Veltar asked. Lieutenant Commander Hyanwu spoke up from his position at the data stations. "They are not just individual creatures. They are nodes in a collective network. Every Devourer is connected to every other Devourer through quantum entanglement and bioelectric signals. They share thoughts, memories, experiences, and decisions instantly across vast distances." "We know this," Dr. Zixera said impatiently. "Their collective consciousness is what makes them so dangerous. They coordinate perfectly." "Exactly," Admiral Taman replied. "Their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness, a network. That shares everything can be infected with the right kind of signal. Captain Sujin activated a portable display device. The screen showed complex patterns of data flowing between the scattered human vessels. Our ships are not cargo carriers. They're mobile computer networks. Each one contains quantum processing systems designed for one specific purpose. Which is? The ethereal representative asked. Psychological warfare, Sujin replied simply. We are introducing concepts into their collective consciousness that they cannot process. Paradoxes, contradictions, ideas that create logical loops with no solution. Commander Minho's voice came through the communication system from the engineering section. Think of it as a computer virus, but for minds instead of machines. We are giving them problems they cannot solve, questions they cannot answer, concepts that make them turn on themselves. The aliens stared at the humans in stunned silence. On the tactical display, more Devourer scouts were beginning to show signs of the same erratic behavior. Some had begun consuming themselves, their own tentacles turning inward to devour their own bodies. Others simply floated motionless, as if their minds had completely shut down. You are ... hacking them.
At?
Queen Hera asked, her translator struggling with the concept. In a way, Admiral Taman confirmed. While your species developed better armor and bigger guns, we developed something more dangerous. We learned how to weaponize confusion. The main Devourer swarm arrived 6 hours later, and what they found was unlike anything in their million-year history of conquest. Their scout units floated dead in space, some torn apart by their own kind, others simply motionless as if their minds had been switched off. The massive biomechanical entities that made up the main force paused at the edge of the system, their collective consciousness struggling to understand what had happened. Admiral Taman stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, watching the swarm through the main viewport. Even at this distance, the Devourers were terrifyingly impressive. Hundreds of moon-sized creatures moved together like a school of cosmic fish, their surfaces writhing with organic and mechanical components. Tentacles longer than mountains reached out to taste the void, searching for threats or food. Main swarm has stopped their advance, reported Lieutenant Commander Hyun Woo from his station. They appear to be analyzing the remains of their scout units, Good Taman replied. That gives us time to complete the network integration. Commander Minho. Status report. From the engineering section, Minho's voice came through clearly. All relay stations are synchronized and operating at maximum efficiency. The quantum virus has been refined based on data from the first contact. We are ready to proceed with full deployment. Captain Sujin's voice crackled over the communication. System from her position deeper in the system. Admiral, we are detecting increased bioelectric activity from the main swarm. Think they are trying to understand what happened to their scouts. Perfect, Taman said. The more they think about it, the more vulnerable they become. Begin. Phase 2. Across the system, the human vessels that had been disguised as simple cargo ships began to reveal their true purpose. Complex antenna arrays extended from their hulls while powerful transmitters came online. The ships were not weapons in any traditional sense, but rather nodes in the most sophisticated computer network ever created by humanity. On the observation post, the alien delegates watched in fascination as the human strategy unfolded. Dr. Zixara of the Altarian forces had her scaled face pressed close to the sensor displays, trying to understand what she was seeing. The humans are transmitting something, she announced to the others. Massive data streams directed at the Devourer swarm. Transmitting what? Asked Chancellor Veltar of the Vorthan Empire. I cannot determine the content, she replied. Signals are encrypted in ways our computers cannot decode. Queen Hera of the Chitauri Collective leaned forward. Look at the Devourers. They are responding to whatever the humans are sending.
Oh.
On the tactical display, the main swarm was beginning to show the same strange behavior that had affected the scouts. Individual Devourers started moving in random directions, breaking away from the perfect formation they had maintained for countless eons. Some began attacking their neighbors, while others simply stopped moving entirely. But something else was happening too. As the chaos spread through the swarm, the Devourer's collective voice began to broadcast on all frequencies. For the first time in recorded history, the ancient destroyers were trying to communicate. "We ... understand," the translated voice whispered across the communication channels. "We comprehend. We see ... different. We choose. We choose." The voice faded into static, then returned stronger. "We choose cooperation." Admiral Taman activated his personal communicator. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Taman. Begin the integration protocol. Show them what we learned." What followed was not a battle in any conventional sense. The human ships moved among the devourer swarm like doctors treating patients there. Transmitters sending carefully crafted signals to individual entities. Instead of trying to destroy the biomechanical creatures, they were reprogramming them. Lieutenant Biora looked up from her science station with wonder in her eyes. "Admiral, the integration is working. The devourers are not just learning new concepts, they are embracing them. Their entire collective consciousness is evolving." "Evolving how?" Taman asked. "They are discovering curiosity instead of hunger, wonder instead of destruction. They want to build things instead of consuming them." From her distant position, Captain Sujin's voice carried excitement. "Admiral, 3 of the main Devourer units have just requested permission to begin construction projects. They want to help us build something." "What kind of construction?" Taman asked. "Transit stations. Communication networks. They say they want to connect the galaxy instead of consuming it." 6 months later, the Galactic Council convened again in the crystal chambers of Nexus Station. But this time, the view outside the windows was completely different. Where once there had been empty space, now there were massive construction projects stretching across the system. The Devourers, working alongside human engineering teams, were building the first galactic transit network in history. Admiral Taman addressed the assembled delegates, his tone respectful but confident. "The Earth Federation is pleased to present the completed Phase 1 of the Galactic Connection Project. Travel time between any 2 systems in the galaxy has been reduced from months to hours." Chancellor Veltar spoke for all of them. "Admiral, your species has not only saved us from destruction, but given us something we never imagined possible."
"Ow!"
"Do we thank you?" Taman gestured toward the construction outside. "By working together to build something better. The universe is vast and full of challenges, but we have learned that even the most ancient and terrible problems can be solved if you approach them the right way." Through the windows, human ships worked side by side with the creatures that had once been the galaxy's greatest nightmare. The Devourers had become the builders, using their incredible power to create instead of destroy. Sometimes Timon added quietly, "The best weapon is not force, but understanding."